Today is Saturday, February 15th, and it's day 2 of NADA Show 2020 in Las Vegas. We've got a big day planned. The expo opens at 8:30 this morning. Join us in the Grand Concourse at the Convention Center for the ribbon cutting and tour the 2020 expo with us. This is where business gets done. You won't want to miss what's happening on the NADA live stage right outside the expo entrance. The stage features industry experts and guests sharing their insight and experience on topics as diverse as digital marketing, women in the industry, the modern dealership, the challenge of hiring and retaining techs, and much, much more throughout the weekend. Our educational sessions kick into high gear today. Workshops, exchange sessions, and the Distinguished Speaker Series all begin at 10:30 this morning. Dealer franchise meetings also start at 10:30. Join us at 2:30 for the opening general session, where we'll laugh with comedian Kathleen Madigan, look at the state of the industry with NADA Chairman Charlie Gilchrist, and find out who will be the 2020 Time Dealer of the Year. That's what's happening today at NADA Show 2020. For details on times and topics, check the NADA Show app or consult the online schedule at nadashow.org. Here's a look at how NADA works for dealers throughout the year.
All right, thank you and welcome back. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about dealership employment trends, and I am here with Tina Almanchenko, who is a marketing manager for Indeed.com, and man who at this point is needing absolutely no introduction up here, Patrick Manzi, NADA chief economist. So Tina, I want to start with you. Can you give us an overview of the labor market right now? Obviously, it's been a couple of years or sustained years of very good economic conditions and economic growth. How is that impacting the labor market overall?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're seeing an incredibly tight labor market right now. Unemployment is sitting at a record low of 3.6%. Which is a number that some people have never experienced in their lifetime. So incredibly low. And for context, during the Great Recession, we had hit about a 10% unemployment level across the US. So a really vast drop. So we just know that this is made for a really sort of candidate-centric market, but we know that it's also caused a supply and demand issue. There are more open jobs than there are job seekers currently.
So Patrick, what's the insight? Same question to you. What's the insight from the auto sector?
So dealership employment has been increasing steadily since the Great Recession, but it's kind of it's reaching a plateau. It's still growing, but the growth has slowed significantly. But it's over 1.1 million employees in the U.S. And I think there still is a little more room to expand. You know, I'm sure pretty much every dealer here would be interested in hiring some more techs especially. Within auto manufacturing, though, we kind of peaked at the beginning of last year. We had the GM strike, which led to a brief downturn and then a pickup. But it's kind of trending downward just a little bit.
So Tina, back to you. Given the current job market conditions, are employers getting more innovative or experimental in how they are going about recruiting?
Yeah, I think savvy employers have to be. We know that the candidate pool isn't growing, so they have to be more thoughtful about how they're engaging the current pool. Some things that we've seen successful employers do, they're kind of reconsidering their parameters of what a good candidate means to them. So they're taking a look at, potentially considering people with criminal records. They're looking at job seekers who had been sidelined due to illness or disability. They're also being really thoughtful about engaging the older worker segment, because we know that's really critical, especially with the experience that some of those older techs have as they've worked their way up the ladder. But nobody throw tomatoes at me. We know that employers are paying more too. That is just sort of bottom line what we're hearing. If they want to be competitive, they're paying more. There are other things, though, that you can really be thoughtful about as an employer, and those sort of center around your employer brand. So beyond pay, there are other things that employers are really considering in terms of marketing to the job seeker. So yes, compensation will always be number one, but thinking about your work environment and what culture is like and being able to communicate that to job seekers will sort of help engage in this really tight labor market.
Okay, so tight labor market is creating a need for changing things up a little bit. Patrick, the recruitment and retention for franchise dealers is always a challenge.
Absolutely.
So with a even tighter labor pool, I imagine that the challenge that the dealers are facing is even more pronounced than it usually is.
It is, and this is despite dealers offering average compensation greater than most other industries out there. There is a lot of opportunity. If you're a tech, you can easily you work there several years, you can easily make $100,000 a year as a tech. But it takes those couple years, and I think sometimes these employees, they know that it's a worker's market, and you can go out and maybe there's greener pastures, so you bounce around a little bit. But one of the things NADA is doing, we've recently launched our workforce initiative, and we provide information online for people who may be interested in joining the technician field. And we want to help facilitate that as much as we can, because I think this is as a tale as old maybe as the NADA show, that dealers need more techs.
Yeah, good reminder of the NADA Workforce Initiative at nadafoundation.org. Outside of that, which is a really important initiative, and we know it's being something that the OEMs are also involved in trying to get techs recruited, but are there additional things dealers are doing other than sort of just trying harder on the recruitment and retention?
So, I think they are changing pay plans a little bit, offering more benefits, time off, structured schedules. Maybe you don't have to do the 80-hour work week of a new vehicle salesman anymore. It's really people want this work-life balance, especially the younger generations, and so I think they are changing their policies more to be in line with this next generation coming in.
Tina, what do employers tell you is their number one challenge when it comes to recruitment right now?
Yeah, well, across the board, we hear that the challenge of the black hole, or ghosting for anyone who's been in the dating circuit for the last few years, is the primary issue. So employers are not hearing back from candidates. Conversely, that's also the number one piece of feedback that we hear from job seekers. We know that only 16% of employers get back to job seeker applications within one day. So it's sort of a two-way street. And from an Indeed standpoint, I think our best recommendation going forward is establishing this idea of transparency, really clearly communicating throughout the process to the job seeker, timelines. This is when you can expect to hear from me. This is what you can expect to find out. That builds job seeker trust, and that also will sort of build this foundation to make job seekers more likely to get back and sort of have some investment into the process.
Okay, Patrick, I'll ask you the same question. What's the number one challenge that dealers say when it comes to recruitment?
To recruitment, I think it's just the tight labor market, and a lot of people just aren't aware that there are these really high-paying jobs available, and they're all over the country. So I think the initiatives that we're undertaking right now, we're hoping that that's going to help, right? We just need more awareness out there that these are great jobs. They offer a good work-life balance and a lot of room for growth. And you don't have to move to a big city to get one of these jobs. You can do it in your own small town, and that's, for many people, I think, is a big benefit.
So let me turn back to the workforce, the job seekers for a minute. And Tina, I'll ask this question to you. How are these trends affecting job seekers, those that are looking to get jobs or probably change jobs in greater numbers?
Yeah, so I think that because the labor market is so tight, um, job seekers likely have jobs. So it is a candidate-centric market. And job seekers are sort of becoming privy to this power shift. And an interesting thing that we've seen over the years is this idea of a quit rate. So the percentage of quit rate is at its highest level that it's been in the last 20 years. And economists equate this to worker confidence. So workers know that they can find a better opportunity elsewhere. They're more likely to take that leap. We also know through our research that more than half of automotive job seekers have looked for a new job within the last 6 months. So that definitely is coming into play within this industry.
And what specifically are they either searching for or asking for when they're looking for new opportunities?
So I think the focus, beyond what they're searching for is pay and compensation will always be, cash is king. That's number one. But as Patrick mentioned, the job seekers' sort of hierarchy of needs has shifted. And we know that automotive job seekers are also holding high importance on things like work-life balance.
Yeah, exactly.
On office culture. They want to know what day-to-day life is like at your dealership. So this idea of employer brand and sort of communicating that to job seekers will be helpful in really recruiting and retaining that great talent.
Are there any interesting trends going on right now with regard to how they're searching, the vehicles that they're using to search for new jobs?
Yeah, so less than a trend and more of a universal truth. We know that 2/3 of automotive job seekers are searching exclusively on mobile. So I think it just begs to the question that if your jobs are available and not mobily optimized, you are missing out on 2/3 of a very qualified talent pool.
So Patrick, Tina mentioned cash is king, and but also indicated that particularly with newer entrants to the job markets, the millennial and generation, et cetera, that's not necessarily the only thing that's important to them. We know that the dealership workforce, let me start with this question. We know the dealership workforce is, compared to their peers in other industries, pretty well compensated, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Based on that, it's not the only motivation, though, anymore for those seeking employment in the auto retail industry. Can you speak to that and how dealers are adjusting to that new reality?
Well, when you're young, right, you want weekends off, right? And traditionally, if you're selling cars, you're working Saturday and Sunday, sometimes every weekend, every month. And I think really they just want the opportunity to go out and spend this higher compensation that they're getting and live their life and have fun. And I think that's a really big key, is that you really got to find the balance. And I'm sure as a dealer, as someone hiring these people, that's very tough to do, right? Because you don't want to, you still need to operate the business, and so you need to figure out the best way to balance that, whether that's changing pay plans, offering more time off, sick days, or just making the workplace a better, more fun environment. All of those things likely would impact job seekers' decisions as to whether or not to work there.
Great. Excellent insight. Thank you very much. Wish we had more time, but we're running short. So Patrick, thank you again. Tina Almanchenko with Indeed.com, thank you again. And don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Patrick is staying, and I'm going to turn things over to Jonathan Collegio, and he is going to sit down with Patrick and Jonathan Smoke of Cox Automotive. We're going to take another dive into the dealership and auto retail and auto sector economics. Thank you both.
Thank you, Jared.